I'll just wait for the little message to tell me it's recording. And it's there. Brilliant. So it's a great pleasure to welcome Ian Mckim, Head of Criminology at USW today. And he's going to give you an overview of the sort of different opportunities available. Okay. And I recognise my hometown in his picture there, Newport, from Newport. So he's going to tell you about the courses at USW, and then he's going to give you a little taste about what you might study if you went on and studied criminology. And we have lots of Year 11s here today as well, and they're thinking about maybe choosing criminology for their sixth form in Year 12. So it's great to get a taste of this and you know, and what you can do with criminology after you leave sixth form as well. So I'm going to hand over to Ian, and I'm going to now mute my mic so there's no background.
Okay, well, a very warm welcome to everybody, and it's a great pleasure for me to be talking to you this evening in relation to criminology at the University of South Wales. What I'm going to do really is just talk to you in a very sort of general sense about some areas within criminology at the university, and really sort of map out what we do as criminologists based at the University of South Wales, and really sort of what our students are actually involved in as well. So hopefully we'll give you a taster of what the subject area is like at the University of South Wales. And then at the end of that, then if you've got any questions, I'm quite happy to take questions from everybody. Okay. So to start with, I suppose are really interested in looking at a number of sort of key questions, and we do this in line with our sort of module structure at the university with our students, and we get students really to sort of focus on key questions. So one of the questions that we sort of get our students to sort of tackle is, why do different types of people commit different types of crime? So as part of this, we start to look at and ask those questions of what drives somebody to commit an offence. What type of offence are we talking about? When we talk about crime, are we talking about crime as a whole, or are we talking about different types of crime? And one of the areas in relation to this really is getting an understanding of the different types of offences that are on the statute book in the UK, and how we can start to understand, I suppose, that pattern of criminality. So once we start to look at this, we start to look at, well, what drives people to commit crime? I'm guessing that we've all been through this, through lockdown. We all got into the sort of Netflix generation of crime documentaries, crime dramas, and those sort of box sets to sort of get us through that sort of lockdown period. And if you look at the sort of Netflix platform, it really is awash with these crime sort of narratives about different types of crime. And in many ways, I suppose, one of the things that this does, it really sort of fuels that sort of narrative around why people commit different types of crime. We then start to look at really the consequences of crime itself. And that can be varied, and it can be complex as well. So in terms of the individual themselves, okay, if you are committing the crime, what is the consequences of your behavior on another individual, for example, or on a community? What are the consequences of crime in terms of our everyday lives? If we think about everything that we're involved with, particularly, I suppose, in terms of technology, we are, I suppose, very much driven by security. So we have a number of passwords, okay, that we use to protect ourselves from people gaining access to our technology devices. If we sort of bank online through our banking app on our mobile phone, we have a number of security passwords to get into our banking system. And again, these are, so, I suppose, wider consequences of criminality in our society. So when we start to look at consequences, the consequences on the individual, so the person who commits the offence, on the victim, again, understanding the nature of being a victim of crime. The consequences on the individual if they get caught, well, what happens to that individual? Are they punished? What type of punishment do they receive? Is it a community punishment? Is it a custodial punishment? Or is it a financial fine? So again, all of these consequences on people committing crime, we start to sort of drill down into as part of that sort of criminological inquiry. The other area that we start to look at is, well, how do we as a society start to react and respond to crime itself? If you pay any attention to news stories, when they speak to people in the community where a particular crime has taken place, one of the first things you'll hear a member of the public say is, well, I didn't know that crime, this area or this community had a problem with crime. And I suppose that really sort of illustrates, I suppose, an understanding of the impact that crime has on individuals, but on a community. So when we start to look at, well, how does crime, how do we react to crime? We react on a number of different levels. Obviously, if we are a victim of crime, okay, we are going to react differently than if we're not a victim of crime. If we think about how governments react to certain types of crime, a great sort of public outcry when serious types of crime take place. If we think about the Sarah Everard case recently, that really did send shockwaves through our community, through our society, about the nature of that crime itself. So when we start to look at crime, when we start to think about the consequences of crime, we also start to think about how we react to crime and people who commit crime. And then the sort of last building block to this really is, well, how do we start to examine the criminal justice system and how does it operate? We tend to think of a system as being a process that works. Whereas if you start to scratch away at the surface of the criminal justice system, you can see it has a number of really severe fault lines. If you look at the prison system at the moment, the prison system is going through a huge crisis because of the number of people who are in prison and also the problems within prison themselves, whether that be in terms of violence, whether that be in terms of drug use. But if we think about other aspects of the system, policing, well, what type of policing do we have in this country? Our policing is very different to policing on the continent in Europe. It's very different to policing in, say, a country like America. So when we start to look at criminal justice systems, we start to look at how they operate, how different parts of that criminal justice system work in conjunction with other areas. So for instance, a crime happens, somebody gets arrested, somebody is charged, they go to court, they are convicted, they go to prison. Now that is a very sort of simple process, but along the way, when you start to look at the criminal justice system, you can start to see fault lines. The other thing that we start to do with students really is look at this sort of mediated world of crime and criminality. As I've already mentioned, through lockdown, Netflix became a staple in everybody's household, really, in terms of dealing with lockdown. And whether you're sort of interested in documentaries like Making a Murderer or Tiger King, all of these type of Netflix crime stories really sort of illustrated a particular type of story, particularly based around the severity of these types of crimes. When you sort of think about, the very sort of evil, sort of sadistic nature of these types of crimes. And in many respects, one of the things that this does illustrate is that we are shocked by crime, but we're also fascinated by crime. And this is a very peculiar set of circumstances. We are appalled by how much crime takes place. We are appalled by the brutal nature of certain types of crime. But we're fascinated to understand why these crimes take place. And this is, in essence, a sort of human nature sort of element of our inquiry, of our understanding of different types of crime. So as part of this, we start to look at really, I suppose, that mediated narrative and understanding really what we do as criminologists when we start to look at types of crime and different sort of patterns of crime. So as part of the criminology courses at the university, we get students from day one involved in tackling some of the biggest problems that we face. If we think about our society at the moment, there is a huge problem around a number of key areas. So we think about substance misuse, for example. Well, we get our students actively involved in looking at this problem and in trying to work this problem out. What do we mean by substance misuse? What is the drug problem? Are we talking about illicit types of drugs? Or are we talking about legal drugs, drugs such as alcohol, for example, and all of the problems that these bring? If you look at the international trade in illicit drugs, in the illicit drugs market, it is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So how do we start to tackle this? How do we start to deal with these questions? If we're looking at violence and homicide, for example, again, we start to look at the nature of violence and why are we experiencing such a sort of spike in violent behavior in this country. I mentioned earlier on about the Sarah Everard case. And one of the things that this case did, it really shone a light on some of the most disturbing aspects of the way in which females are treated in society. So again, we get students engaged in these questions. If we start to look at terrorism, for example, again, our world has been changed fundamentally because of 9/11. And we have been through decades of, I suppose, terrorism and conflict in relation to the war on terror and 9/11. So again, we start to look at some of these questions. We start to get students actively involved in tackling some of these questions.
Working on the cold case unit has allowed me to apply critical thinking skills to something that is relevant to criminal justice and to my degree in criminology.
The other thing that we're very sort of fortunate to have at the university is a number of key projects that students can actively get involved with. One of the projects is the Innocence project, and this is where potential miscarriages of justice cases are investigated by students So we have a number of students who are all involved in a number of cases at the moment, and they have full access of all of the sort of court documents, the police interview documents, the solicitor documents, the evidence that the police pull together for this case. And what the students do is they go back through all of the evidence with a very sort of fine-tooth comb and really sort of pick out to see if they can find anything that would question the conviction of that particular individual. And currently, as I say, we have students involved in a number of miscarriage of justice cases. We've got 2 cases at the moment that are ongoing and are with barristers in London. We have the cold case unit, and we were the first university in the UK to set up a cold case unit. This unit is where students are involved in historical cold case investigations. Part of what they do is linked to a number of key areas in cold case investigations. We have students involved in missing person cold case investigations. We have students involved in unidentified found remains investigations, and we have students involved in what is referred to as no body murder investigations. And again, these units really start to look at all of the evidence. They start to look at all of the DNA, scientific evidence. They start to look at all of the case files to really sort of pin together if there are any leads that we can advance further investigation into these particular cases. And again, students are actively involved in these investigations. The other areas that we have the hydra simulation unit, again, where students can experience real sort of time investigations, real cases. And the hydra simulation unit really at the university really allows students to develop their skills in that sort of investigative sort of framework, but also in terms of decision making and leadership. We have the crime house, where students can be involved in criminal sort of investigations and understand that sort of crime scene investigation. And also as part of this is built around that sort of forensics analysis as part of what they do. So again, we're very fortunate at the university where we have a number of these projects that students are engaged with from year 1. I mentioned just a moment ago, as part of the cold case unit, students work in a particular area of unidentified found remains. And over the summer months, a group of our students were involved in a particular case where a set of remains were washed up on the shore of the south coast of England. And the German police were involved in this investigation, and they approached us to get involved because we have sort of expertise in this area. And our students worked with the German police over the summer months and were able to identify the potential sort of individual connected to these unidentified found remains through very sort of close examination of a particular piece of jewelry that was found on these remains that were washed up on the shore of the south coast of England. And again, it was part of that sort of project that allowed students to be actively engaged in these types of projects where you sort of link sort of theory and practice together and get that sort of real world experience. We're very fortunate, and I'm very fortunate as the head of the criminology department to have a really sort of excellent sort of staff and wide range of expertise within the staff at the university. And I always sort of think of staff as being that sort of unique sort of selling point as part of the criminology degree provision at the university. And it's their expertise and their knowledge and how they sort of start to bring all of these aspects, whether in terms of environmental crime, whether it's in terms of homicide or trauma or youth justice. Staff really sort of bring their expertise through their research into the classroom, into the lecture room, for students to really be engaged in that sort of challenge-based sort of area of being a criminology student. In terms of what we do as well as part of the undergraduate program is we set students challenges, whether that be dealing with knife crime in the Rhondda Cynon area, whether that be dealing with cold case investigations, but really setting students challenges, because part of that sort of active sort of learning process is really to challenge students to think about these areas. And we are very fortunate where we have a number of sort of live projects where students can again be engaged in that sort of real world research, but also drawing out real solutions to a number of problems. And part of this really is built on the sort of process of the sort of placements that we have and the links we have with industry. We're very fortunate at the university as well because of the expertise that we have at the university, and also because of the way in which we sort of engage with our industry partners. We're very fortunate to have this sort of criminal justice futures framework where we have ex-students who are now working in the field of criminal justice come back and talk to our students. And it really sort of offers that sort of network for students then to find employment when they've graduated. And again, this is something I'm sort of immensely proud with at the university, is the links that we have with industries, is the links that we have with our former students. And also we have our former students now working as members of staff at the university. So again, it's very much sort of about that sort of future sort of prospect for all students. Because part of the sort of journey, if you like, of studying at university is preparing students for their future careers. And as I say, you know, we're very fortunate at the university to have such strong and good links with our former students, with industry, with areas within criminal justice, who then can come back to talk to our students. Because for criminology, I suppose, and for criminology students, it is about the real world. It is about applied evidence. And as Stan Cohen famously said, you know, criminology really is a window on the world of crime. And understanding those sort of social factors, understanding the sort of victimization and the victimology of criminality. And we get our students, as I say, day one, ready for this. This is not, by the way, student accommodation, before any of you sort of look at it and go, is that the accommodation at the university? As I say, we got very good links with a number of areas within the criminal justice arena. And we recently took students to a prison to see what it's like inside a prison and the conditions of what it's like to be in a prison. And again, it just sort of adds that sort of richness and that rich vein to the subject area and to the degree sort of program. And as you can see by the images in front of you, these are images of a prison where we, you know, the students were able to sort of go around and view what life is like inside a prison. The other thing that we're very proud of, and today is a very good example, is we have a number of sort of key contacts and key individuals who come and talk to our students. Today, we were very, very fortunate to have the First Minister of Wales, Mark Drakeford, talk to our students today on the nature and the future of youth justice in Wales. And again, he gave up his afternoon to talk to our students and really sort of to take questions from the students. And the students were very much sort of captivated by listening to the First Minister this afternoon. We've had former Prime Ministers come and talk to our students. We've had the heads and former heads of GCHQ, MI6, MI5, Counter-Terrorism Command, and Chief Constables. I'm always sort of reminded, really, it's one of the sort of moments that will stay with me forever, I think, is when we had the former head of MI6. And if you don't know, MI6 really is the overseas sort of spy agency. I suppose we're all familiar with the James Bond character in sort of, I suppose, understanding MI6. And when the former head was speaking to the students, one of the students asked him, "Does that pen, or could that pen fire bullets and kill me?" To which the former head of MI6 just looked at him straight and said, "Well, I can't tell you that. It's a top level sort of secret, and if I do tell you, I will have to kill you." And you could just see the sort of student's face thinking, "Does he really mean this?" But we know, as I say, we're sort of very fortunate in many ways of having really good links with professionals and heads of areas within a number of key positions. Next January, we are very excited to have a professor of psychiatry and human behavior from University of California coming to talk to our students, again, about trauma and the impact that trauma has on individuals, particularly in terms of sort of future offending behavior. So again, part of the sort of university experience, part of the experience at the University of South Wales really is linking, I suppose, that theory and practice together, linking students with industry, and really giving that sort of holistic sort of understanding of the nature and the problem of crime itself. Lastly, and we're sort of very sort of fortunate with this again, is in terms of missing person investigations. We've just been approached by the National Crime Agency lead for missing persons. And again, looking at, I suppose, a new project in really sort of bringing awareness around missing persons and the vulnerability that young people particularly face in going missing. And research that is being carried out at the moment indicates that those youngsters who go missing are often vulnerable, and they often end up in different types of criminality and criminal behavior, whether that be through county lines or whether that be through other aspects of criminality. So again, we're sort of very fortunate and very sort of aware of the sort of rich nature of what we've got in front of us for our students to actively be involved in these projects. And as I say, I'll send this link on to the school so you can start to look at this in terms of the sort of cold case and the Innocence project. Because again, these are two projects that we are immensely proud of at the university, and students really do get a great deal from these different types of projects. Okay, so I'll just end it there, and I'll just come back on screen for any questions.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ian. That's great. So do we have any I think we've got questions already. People are typing. There's people typing. So in terms of the criminology, how many students would you have sort of in a year group in terms of criminology?
Well, at the moment we have 125 students in the first year, as an example.
Fab. Yeah.
Okay, and they're split over 3 courses. So yeah, so we do have a good number, but all of the students sort of get to know each other straight away. So the students well, a few weeks ago actually, the students organised a Halloween party for a sort of, you know, get to know each other.
Yeah.
And the students had a great evening. So yeah, it's that sort of thing that we're really conscious of doing at the university.
And in terms of the lectures, because are they going to be, they're based in Newport, are they, your lectures?
No, we're based at the True Forest campus.
Okay.
And the way in which now we're working is the majority of the lectures, if you like, something similar to what I've just done now, they're done through the Teams webinars.
Yeah.
And then what we have bespoke sort of workshops where students come in very small groups, because obviously we're governed by the regulations at the moment. Yeah. And yeah, students actively get involved in those workshops on campus face to face.
Fab. Now Miss Murphy runs our criminology and psychology courses, and she said that students have asked her, what qualification subjects would you recommend for studying a criminology course? So what would be some good options in terms of sixth form where you would probably develop lots of skills at sixth form to be able to cope quite well with a criminology degree?
Yeah, well, I suppose the classics in terms of the social science areas, whether that be sociology, psychology, the criminology obviously as well, law. I'm not sure if you run law as an A level, but yeah, those areas, you know, I would say are key. However, it's not always the case that, you know, if you do in, say, English and history, for example, and religious studies, you don't have the sort of inquiring mind and the critical skills to come and do a criminology degree. So yeah, so they're the ones I would say, yeah.
And we're lucky at Radyr, for the year 11s that are listening to this, because we do offer psychology and we offer criminology. So we get students who pick both. We get some students who might do just one of them, and we sometimes get students who apply for criminology, haven't studied completely different subjects, but may have just developed an interest from it, and they might have thought, well, actually I didn't pick it, I wish I had, but I really am interested in this. After we encourage them to do some sort of research and attend taster courses such as this and master classes, etc. Also, Ms. Murphy has said that, is there any experiences you believe students should look to achieving as a preference to university courses? You know, in terms of any experience in as well that you should be looking at. I think that's what she means in terms of this.
Yeah, look, I think volunteering is one of the best experiences, and it doesn't really sort of matter what the volunteering is in. It is essentially, you know, all of the sort of research indicates, isn't it, that if you're involved in sort of volunteering programs, it really adds a richness to not just your sort of well-being, but also to, I suppose, your social skills, your soft skills, which again are very much part of being at university.
Brilliant. And she's also put the WJC encourage guest speakers to attend the school. Would you be available or recommend any guest speakers that would help the preparation for the level 3 university course?
Yes, I'm more than happy. I'm more than happy to come and talk to at the school if permitted.
Yes, and we sort of just starting to lift restrictions a bit now in terms of guest speakers and that, and we might better do something in terms of that. We have a limit, so for in terms of it, but we can certainly look at doing in terms of that. Now, in terms of the criminology course as well, because I know we've got lots of year 11s there. Would you have the opportunity to sort of do 2 years and maybe do sort of like a sandwich course and do another?
No, we don't offer a sandwich course on our current program. But one of the things that we were looking at bringing into our program, and this was back in February of 2020, just before lockdown.
Yeah.
Was an exchange program with some universities in America and some universities in Europe.
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity to study abroad.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the COVID situation has put a halt to all of that. So one of the things that we're looking to do now in the new year is to sort of reinvigorate that sort of process to see if we can get that back up and running.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic, because how brilliant though, wouldn't it be to actually get some experience and learn about, other countries' legal systems and the issues they're having? It'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? I think that would be really, really good. Yeah, absolutely. Just for the year 11s who might not be aware of what this is, when we talk about a sandwich course, what that means is that normally people would spend 2 years doing you're studying, and then maybe after the second year go out for a year and work or do some research or do something as part of the course and then come back and finish it. But very often universities are looking for this year out where you can gain lots of experiences, and a partnership program with other universities in other countries is fantastic. So Ms. Murphy said that many of her year 13 students are asking about major minor courses with criminology. Is that something available at the USW?
Yes. Yeah, so we run a criminology and criminal justice with psychology. So that is the major minor. So you major in criminology and then you have a minor in psychology. So if you have a real sort of interest in sort of, the psychology side of things as well, then that really is a sort of a degree maybe that you sort of start to look at. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and Ms. Murphy's just put on the chat because the mic's not working. That, by the way, that works well because most of the students are asking are psychology students, so they would be able to combine both. And it is very popular, that combination, because why it works so well year 11 is that the psychology is assessed purely by exams, and the criminology has a mixture. Exams is just one component of it. So students who tend to do better in terms of controlled assessments, tend to do a lot better, obviously, in the criminology. So you can combine both. And lots of university courses would have that combination. So in terms of the assessment on the course at USW, is it sort of a coursework a big part of it and research, or is it sort of more exam based in terms of the actual assessment for it?
Yeah, well, look, I'll just, this might cheer everybody up on this, but yeah, we've moved away from exams completely. So we don't run any exam.
Amazing.
What we would move to really is what they sort of call authentic sort of learning and authentic assessments. And we get students involved in assessments I suppose in terms of the skills that are required for future employment. And we have a number of different types of assessments in terms of this. So for instance, if you want to sort of join the police or the probation service, you have to learn, if you like, how to write reports. So being able to write reports is a key element to us. But we have a number of different assessments as well. One of the assessments that the students really do enjoy is the students get an opportunity to create a podcast, and they sort of make their own sort of podcast. So yeah, we've moved away totally though from exams.
And as Ms. Murphy's just put now, that works well with our level 3 students because they're involved in half controlled assessments. So the controlled assessments is half their grade. So it's a great course, year 11, for students who are maybe thinking, well, actually, my other options that I'm going to pick will be quite heavily exam based. So this shows me, this gives me another way of showing the skills. And also I'm not revising lots and lots of content. I'm able to sort of show my skills and my knowledge a different way rather than having to revise for, you know, lots of exams in a short period of time. So that's really, really useful in terms of that. What about in terms of if they want to do a master's and stuff? Would they be able to do it with you as well?
Yeah, so we have two master's programs available. So we have a crime and justice masters, and we also have a working with adult and young offenders masters. And as of 2023, January 2023, we will have a criminal intelligence analyst masters as well. So yeah, we have plenty of opportunities to sort of progress onto postgraduate studies.
Fab. And just for the year 11s who might not know, you know, a little bit too much about masters, all really is that when you're at university, if you study for a degree, it's an undergraduate degree. It's called an undergraduate degree, and many people afterwards might think, well, actually, I'm really enjoying my subject, but I want to learn, maybe specialize in something with a little bit more, even more detail, right? And you can do these higher degrees like a master's and a PhD and stuff like that. And very often now, universities are combining masters as part of the course, you know, rather than doing a degree and then doing a master's afterwards. Yeah. Would you have to sign up for that straight away? Would you have to, would that be, you know, could you, is there any way you could, let's say you were someone that really, you picked a criminology course and you really loved it, and then you thought, well, actually, I'm enjoying this so much, I'd like to transfer to the master's program. Would you be able to do that?
Yeah, you can apply. You can start to apply for a master's course in sort of towards the sort of beginning really of your third year. Yeah,
because some universities are sort of signing up, right? Basically from the very beginning, you're going to go, this will be a degree and a master's combined.
Yeah.
And sometimes students don't want to sort of commit to that. They'd rather experience a degree and go, actually, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
And then do it. Or sometimes they've enjoyed their degree at a particular university and they think, well, actually, I'll move on and do a master's somewhere else because I'm sort of gaining experience of a different way of teaching, a different sort of research that's going on, you know, because you're going to get a flavour of all the different research that you do at your university. And sometimes people think, well, actually, I'll go and do a master's elsewhere because I know I'm interested in this particular thing and that's really good at this university in terms of that's what they do a lot of research in. So you've got that flexibility. Miss Murphy's put, could you forward her the link for the cold case department because it will help students prepare for the applications of crime, to the scenarios in the controlled assessment and the external exam?
Yes, I can do, yes.
That's brilliant. And I will, and I can, what I'll do is I can pass that on to her in terms of that, and that would be really good. And I'll sort that out for her. Okay. So I'm just looking at the time now. If anyone's got any more questions, they can put them in the chat. If not, if you email me, I'll pass them on to Ian and the team at USW. And I'm hoping that lots of our year 11s will watch this video that couldn't be here today because lots will be considering criminology. And this is a great video to show them that we're going to put on our YouTube channel to just show you, you know, your pathway afterwards. If you really enjoy the criminology that you pick at Radyr, this could open up so many doors for you with the courses, you know, such as this, really.
Brilliant.
Okay. Well, there's one more question. Mckim has put, year 11 can also come and see me to gain insight into the level 3 course as well. So Miss Murphy has basically said that if you are a year 11 student, come and see Miss Murphy, and she's based in the humanities block, and she'll talk you through the level 3 course. And you know, because after watching this video, many of you year 11 may be inspired to actually go on and take this criminology course, and Miss Murphy is the person that will be able to talk to you a little bit about this. Okay. No worries. Miss Murphy's just put in the chat that she's sorry that her mic's not working. No worries, Miss. Absolutely fine. No worries. Absolutely. This is what happens with technology sometimes. There we are. But thank you so much, Ian. We really appreciate you giving me the time. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. And thank you, everyone who's going to be watching this video at a later date. This is a good advantage of doing this on Teams that, you know, we will get. I know that our YouTube channel gets something like 50,000 views.
Right.
So, you know, hopefully many people who are watching this will go on and will end up doing criminology with you. And I know they'll be looked after and do really well.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Ian. And anyone can also, we always tag in USW. And have you got a Twitter handle that the students could follow you on Twitter?
Yes, it's at USW Criminology.
Oh, perfect. Well, what I'll do is I've tweeted you tonight and the university as well. And what I'll do is I'll follow you on that and tag you in as well, so that all the students can follow you and find out what's happening.
Great stuff.
That's great. Oh, one more thing, open evenings, open days. Do you have any open days coming up?
Yeah, we do actually. We got one on Saturday.
Oh, perfect. See, perfect, that one. So if you want to find out more, everyone, I would imagine you just go onto your website and book it. And then, is it face-to-face or virtual?
Yes, it's face-to-face Saturday.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be so good. And I know that there's a few year 13s who have emailed me saying, Dr. O, please send me the video because I couldn't come tonight because I really want to do criminology at USW. So I'm going to recommend to them that they come along to the open day. Brilliant. Thanks, Ian. Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely evening and see you all in school tomorrow.
Okay. Bye now.
Thank you.